Good morning. I am glad that you are all here. I am Ann Kraft and I am with Michigan Virtual. I'm the Executive Director of Outreach and wanted to introduce our other speakers today. First of all, we have Peter Kraft, who is the CEO and co-founder of Evolution Labs, which is the platform that we are running the Michigan Cares program on. We also have Tracy Howe from Evolution Labs, the Executive Vice President of Sales and Marketing and the co-founder. Angela Shields, who is the Digital Learning Specialist from Michigan Virtual, and Crystal Ladwig from Evolution Labs, who is the Director of Research and Content Development. So I am glad that you are all here today. We are going to talk about the grant program to make some additional functionality for the Michigan Cares program available to school districts. And I will let the folks from Evolution Labs go into that. But I do want to remind you that in case you're not familiar, that the Whitmer administration actually funded the Michigan Cares program using federal GEARS dollars pretty shortly after the pandemic started, recognizing the need for social emotional learning and mental health support, made those funds available. The Michigan Cares program is available to every person in Michigan right now for free. So what we're going to talk about is what is additionally available through these grants. And to do that, I'm going to kick it over to Peter Kraft.
Terrific. Thanks, Ann. Hi, everyone. Peter Kraft here with the Evolution Labs. And in fact, we're actually now part of Navigate 360. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that organization. They do the ALICE active shooter training, and behavioral threat assessment, and a few other great things around school safety. So excited to be part of that organization. And of course, thrilled about our partnership with Michigan Virtual. So what I would like to do first is just make sure, as Ann said, Michigan Cares, this program, is available to everyone in the state of Michigan. And the first thing I really wanted to do is make sure everyone is aware of this program and the things that you can do and really what it's all about. The thrust of this program is essentially access to the Suite 360 content library. The Suite 360 programs have been customized for the Michigan Cares program. So it basically is making all content available to residents in Michigan through the end of the 2021 school year. And I wanted to give you a little bit more detail on what's involved there. There are actually 4 Suite 360 programs that we've put that content into Michigan Cares. The thrust of the Suite 360 program really revolves around social and emotional learning, mental health, parent engagement, and staff engagement is more. And it's really about meeting students in the digital world where we know this is where they prefer consuming and engaging in content. It's a web and mobile program. And I think that this is so important because the digital world is where not only students, but parents and staff prefer to consume content. So it's a really important way to get that content out to them. The library in the Michigan Cares program contains close to 1,000 lessons covering a wide range of SEL and character ed topics. And you're seeing some sample themes from the library flash up on the screen. There are also lessons we developed on COVID and the effect that it's had on many kids and families. We also recently expanded our content since the death of George Floyd. We expanded our content on racial equity and tolerance. So it's a very robust library. Also, all of this content is aligned with CASEL. So for those of you familiar with CASEL, it's really the national framework for social and emotional learning. So every one of our lessons maps to one of CASEL's 5 core competencies for SEL. The other great thing about the content in the Michigan Cares program through Suite 360 is that all of this content is scaffolded by grade. It spans K to 12. And that's important for a few reasons. First, content, of course, needs to be developmentally appropriate for students. But another benefit is we don't want students going through the same lesson year after year in exactly the same way. So each year, students would see a new grade version of a lesson so that the program and the content always feels fresh. Another benefit of the content in Suite 360 is the different ways that the content is delivered. Students are reading, watching, and interacting with content. And the reason we do that is because students have different learning styles, and sometimes different methods of content delivery will resonate with different kids. There's also the parent version of Suite 360. The idea here, deliver topics to parents throughout the year, also web and mobile based, but also scaffolded by grade. So parents of a second grader will see content differently than parents of students in every grade. But the parent program is really about better educating and equipping parents to consume the content that we all know is important for them to be consuming and thinking about, and also to equip them to have smart conversations with their kids. So this parent program is just as critical, I would say. We also have a program for staff. The idea here is content for school and district staff to better equip them to understand what social and emotional learning is, how to have smart conversations with students about it, and how to recognize risk behavior. So again, this is all in the Michigan Cares program. And finally, we have content from what we call Suite 360 Mental Health and Prevention. This one goes deeper into mental health content, drug awareness, and child trafficking. And Dr. Ladwig on our team, if I could just hand it over to you for a few minutes to talk a little bit more about the mental health content in the program.
Sure, I'd be glad to. So we have a series of lessons scaffolded across K through 12, addressing mental health awareness and mental health education for students. In these younger grades throughout elementary, the focus is on providing a foundation for mental health care and helping students understand the connection between their thoughts, feelings, and actions, and the relationship between the skills that they learn and taking care of themselves when their mental health in the same way they might take care of their physical health. And as they move into the upper grades throughout grades 6 through 12, we get more specific about talking about specific mental health issues and conditions that students may experience or see other people dealing with, and really a big emphasis on taking action to help themselves and to help others, both proactively in caring for their health, but also in responding as needed when students may find themselves struggling to do the things that they need or want to do.
Perfect. Thanks, Crystal. And beyond that, there's also content on drug awareness, covering vaping and tobacco, opioids and over-the-counter drugs, and alcohol and marijuana. And all of this content, and Crystal, if you wouldn't mind jumping in one more time, maybe talk about how all the content was developed by whom.
Certainly. So we've got such a variety of topics, from learning basic self-care skills for some of the younger students to these mental health topics, and these really complex topics, including human trafficking and suicide prevention. We didn't want to rely on just one person to try to do all of this. So we really brought in a broad group of mental health and education experts to make sure that the content that students are receiving in these lessons is both accurate and timely, given the emerging state of mental health care in our country, but also presented in a way so that students can understand it and relate to it, and done in a way that's pedagogically sound.
Thanks, Crystal. Also, all of the content in the Michigan Cares program is available in all languages, and there are also read out loud buttons for both students, parents, and actually staff as well. They can just click a button and the lesson gets read out loud to them. So again, we wanted to first make sure everyone was aware of the Michigan Cares program and what's already been funded by the state. It's essentially access to almost all of the Suite 360 content library. And we just gave you a little preview of what that might look like for students, parents, and staff. But between ourselves and Michigan Virtual, we really wanted to better equip schools and districts to go deeper with this program. And we didn't want you to have to pay for it. So we developed a grant. It essentially equates to about $1,000 per school to get the full versions of the Suite 360 program and the as it's now in Michigan Cares. And there's a couple of key features that make it the full version of the program. The first and most important feature is that the grant allows you to have full student rostering in the program. And this is important because A, it feeds a reporting dashboard on the back end of the program, so you can actually see whether or not students are going through their lessons, but it also gives you a lot of flexibility in how you can assign lessons to students throughout the year. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. Another added feature of the program through this grant is that you can use teacher delivery of content. So this could be done in a classroom environment or remotely online. We also include a teacher companion guide. This is guidance on how to present lessons to the class. The other option is, and this is typically at the higher grade levels, students are going through lessons on a device, could be one-to-one or one-to-many, could be in school or at home, and they're completing lessons that you're assigning to them throughout the year. There's essentially a recommended scope and sequence of lessons that we encourage schools and districts to follow. Another great feature in the added version of the Michigan Cares / Suite 360 program is what we call pulse surveys. You know, today, most schools and districts are no longer delivering 30 or 40 questions to their students because really no student wants to fill out a 30 question survey. Pulse surveys, on the other hand, this is a bank of professionally developed questions. The schools and the districts can also develop and upload their own. And what we're doing is peppering questions into the program throughout the year, but only one question at a time. Because from a student's perspective, one question at a time doesn't feel onerous. It doesn't feel like they're being surveyed. And what we find is they're more likely to answer and actually do so honestly. And again, this all gets reported to you on a dashboard to give you a better sense of attitudes and school climate. Another great feature in the grant version of the program is a chat interface. And the logic behind the chat interface is that for many kids today, Gen Z and Gen Alpha, your audience, we often say that they're braver behind the device. And in fact, students tell us in focus groups, I want to ask for help. I just don't want anyone seeing me walking through the office and knocking on the counselor's door or the principal's door. So this chat interface, first of all, this is your team on the other end of this interface, not ours, not the state, it's school or district personnel. And it's really about meeting students in the digital world where, again, they're often more comfortable having sensitive conversations. So this all gets down to the reporting dashboard on the back end of the program. And Crystal, if you don't mind, I'll hand it over to you again, and maybe you could talk about some of the insights we can glean from the program engagement.
I'll be glad to. So there is a rather comprehensive reporting dashboard on the back end of the program that teachers and administrators can use to keep track of individual student progress, as well as to look at metrics across a class, across a school, or even across the district. Reporting information about how students are scoring on pre-test versus post-test, how many students are completing assignments, what assignments they're completing. It really provides a great objective reporting tool that you can use to show as interested stakeholders or parties what you're doing proactively to address social, emotional, character development, and mental health needs of your students.
Thanks, Crystal. I think another neat thing about the reporting dashboard is it can help uncover trends, and it can even identify a need for additional programming that students or parents or staff might be hungry for.
And I'll just add real quickly, we've had that happen. Actually, just this week, I was on a call with somebody who was using these reporting measures to identify kids that might need some additional social emotional support, and looking at them in terms of what kind of supports that they might need, even more specifically identifying types that they can use moving forward.
And I think in addition to all of these great features, another terrific benefit of using the grant version of this program is you actually get access to our team. So our training team is supporting the school and or the district throughout the life of the program, making sure it gets implemented with fidelity and that you really understand what the reporting dashboard is able to show you. Also, we're able to customize the program so that it looks and feels like it's coming from the school or the district. And this is great because it positions the school or the district as the source for this information in the program so that students, parents, and staff are really looking to you all as the experts. The only requirements to get this grant is to implement the program with fidelity, and that really involves 2 steps. Number 1, the student roster has to be uploaded, and number 2, you have to follow or exceed the recommended scope and sequence. So again, when we build the program with you, we'll customize it so it looks and feels like it's coming from the school or the district. We'll go through the scope and sequence with you. We'll talk about different implementation models, and then our client services team will support you throughout the life of the program. I also just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware that there is an additional program that we call Suite 360 Intervention. This is actually not included in the grant. If anyone has interest in this, they can reach out to Angela at Michigan Virtual, but I wanted to give you just a quick preview because it's a very popular program. The Michigan Cares program is really about preventative content delivered to students, parents, and staff throughout the year. The intervention program, this is a program for students after an infraction has occurred. And the way this program works is if a student commits an infraction, they're getting mapped to or uploaded into a lesson related to their infraction. And what you're seeing on the screen here are just some sample themes from this program's library. There's a whole library of lessons that you'll get access to, but a couple of interesting things about the intervention program. First, and by contrast, in the Michigan Cares program or the Suite 360 student program, lessons average maybe 15 or 20 minutes each. Well, in the intervention program, lessons can range from 20 minutes to 2 hours or longer. Typically, the length of the lesson relates to the severity of the infraction or whether or not the student is a repeat offender. So this program is in use in every level of tier intervention at thousands of schools and districts around the country. I think the other great thing of the intervention program, at the end of each lesson, there's a making amends section. Here, the student is writing a reflection, describing what they learned in the lesson, what they learned from the experience that found them in trouble, and how it may have affected a victim. And they're also signing a pledge, pledging to make better decisions moving forward. So ultimately, this is about turning the infraction into a learning experience for the student. And at most schools and districts, parents or guardians are required to sign off on this making amends section before students are allowed back in class. And then, of course, there's also a reporting dashboard with the intervention program, except here we're monitoring infractions, recidivism, post-assessment scores, really everything you're doing for restorative practices now all digitally recorded. And in fact, this program, like our others, is in use in districts and schools around the country as a supplement for detention and suspension. And in many cases now, actually, and I'm proud to say, as a replacement for detention and suspension, especially for the younger kiddos, because we all know that suspending a student rarely works. Frankly, it's more often an academic death sentence to suspend a student, or it's the spark to the school to prison pipeline. So what we've learned is it is far more meaningful and impactful to upload a student in a lesson related to their infraction. So getting back to the grant program, and Anne and Crystal and Tracy on the line as well. If any of you would like to just jump in, and if I may have left something out here, please do so. I know we're going to be sending a copy of the presentation to all the webinar registrants, but did I miss anything?
I don't think so.
So what we ask you to do, if you're interested in the expanded version of the Michigan Cares program, is you'll go to this URL, which you can find on the Michigan Virtual website, our partner in the state. You'll apply for the grant. It's super easy. I think it's maybe 4 fields. And then Angela at Michigan Virtual will be involved. And then she'll work closely with our team to make sure the program gets customized, built, and then implemented with fidelity. And I wanted to just pause there and And do we have time for questions or comments? I see that some have been going through the chat. I'm not sure if anyone has been answering or engaging with those.
Yeah, we have been engaging with them. There have been a couple of questions. How are schools selected? And once a school fills out that interest form on the landing page, then Angela will connect them and will connect with them, and they are available on a first come, first served basis. And the other questions that we had is, is this a district commitment, or can individual buildings within a district sign up? And the answer is that this is per school, so it is buildings within a district can sign up on their own. One question, Peter, I think your team will probably have to answer. Someone in the chat asked, are ISDs eligible to use the content? And I know that we do want to make it eligible at the ISD level, but there's not an option on the school district drop-down menu when you try to create an account. So that's something that we can address kind of on the back end, and we can reach out to the person who asked that question.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I'm sure we can find a way to make that happen as well, Ann.
Okay. So
I was just going to jump in for a moment, and when the grants run out, there is an opportunity for schools to purchase, the expanded version for $1,000, per school for the remainder of the school year. And I believe we've actually extended, and correct me if I'm wrong, to have access to that program through August.
yes, through the summer term. And that is correct. We have made it available for that $1,000. Right now, one of the questions was, what is the cost to continue after the 2021 year when the grant runs out? And that is yet to be determined. I will say that we are hoping that we have enough participation and enough enough evidence to take back to the governor's office and say, we would like to have this program funded again so that we can offer it throughout next year. If that is the case, then this will be a free program for next year. Depending on what funding we have, we may be able to offer it at a discount, or we may go back to our pre-pandemic funding, depending on what that looks like with the legislature. So I will definitely, we'll definitely keep you updated on that, but we'd like as many people to participate as possible right now. The next question is from, is the chat function available 24/7, or can we customize the time frame? That's a great question.
Yeah, I'll jump in there. That is a great question. So the chat interface, it is available 24/7. However, at most schools and districts, they don't use this as a 24/7, 365 chat interface with their students. What they do is they promote to their students that at certain times of the year, for example, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 3 to 5 p.m., someone from the school will be on that chat interface if you'd like to have a conversation. At all other times that no one is managing the chat on your team, it'll simply provide links to resources that you've designated. Those could be resources at the school level, the district or community level, even the state or federal level. So a common resource that's a default resource, unless you change it, are things like suicide prevention hotlines or drug abuse hotlines, things like that. So it's not typically open 24/7, 365, although it can be, but most schools don't have the resources to support the program that way.
Okay, thank you. We have another question that says, is cost based upon the size of the school, or is it a flat rate no matter the size? Angela, would you like to answer that question? I mean, obviously right now, if we're offering the grant, the cost is free, so that's not an issue. But if, when we go back to per school, how is that structured?
Absolutely, Ann, and that is a great question, because it is a flat rate of $1,000 per building for the 4 programs that Peter mentioned, and then only $2,000 per building for the intervention program. So it really is a cost savings. Typically, the pricing is based on a per student basis. And so having the funding from the state to provide it at the $1,000 level, once the grant has been depleted, if you will, is truly a way for schools to still take advantage of this timely, relevant, and expert curated content at a discounted cost.
Thank you, Angela. Are there any other questions? I think we have answered all of the ones in the question and answer. I don't see any more. Let me see if there's any more in the regular chat. Is there a cost to continue? I think we already answered that. I have no more questions. Peter, did you want to wrap up with anything?
Well, I would just like to say thank you, everyone, for the opportunity to show you the program. Again, regardless of if you apply for the grant and if it's awarded, we encourage you to use the Michigan Cares program, which is free already in the state. But if you really feel like you can benefit from those added features and functionality, we'd encourage you to apply for the grant. Also, if anyone is interested in the intervention program, you can reach out to Angela. She'll get you more information on that as well. But it's been a privilege working with the state of Michigan, Michigan Virtual, and having the Suite 360 program help schools and students and parents throughout the year. So we're excited to expand this opportunity for you all.
So there are a couple of other questions that have come in. How do we access the free program? And that is at michiganvirtual.org/Michigan Cares. There's information there with a link directly to the portal to sign in. We are going to send out another question. We are going to send out a link to the recording. So that will be coming within the next day. And Kylie asked, is with the current free version, does each student have to individually register for an account? And the answer is yes. There is no student rostering with the program that is currently available for free.
Yeah, and the reason why, if I can just jump in there, Ann, is because this program, and as you mentioned earlier, was launched during the height of the pandemic when students were all at home, parents were at home. So it was an opportunity for kids to sign up for the program. They'll identify what grade they're in, and parents would be signing up for the program as well. In the grant version of the program, the student rostering makes things so much easier, gives you more flexibility. And again, it also, it benefits you on the reporting dashboard on the back end of the program.
Right. Okay. If you have questions, please go to the landing page that was put in the link and fill out that form. That form goes directly to Angela, and she will reach back out to you to answer your questions.
There's one more question here that I see that just popped up.
Oh, the maximum amount for the grant is $1,000 per district. So yes, that is
per
correct,
school, I think, Ann.
but it's per,
right?
it is per school. Yes, it is per school building. So a school building would only need one grant in order to implement this. So yes, per school. Okay, it is 11:30. We are going to wrap up. And if anyone has additional questions, please make sure that you fill out that form on the landing page. It will go directly to Angela and she will reach out and we will get you in process.